Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tardis Zone Talks, episode 19. And we are doing the second part of why old Hollywood movies are better than the movies that we get today. And we had such a great conversation last week that people wanted to follow up. So we're here again to talk about some of the old movies that we grew up with. So if there's any people in the chat that have their favorite movies, let me know what they are and stuff like that, and we'll have a bit of a conversation. Christian should be with us shortly. We've already had a chat and I've sent him the link. He'll be here in just a moment. But yeah, as I said, we're carrying on from last week's topic. And now some people have questioned why I'm doing all of this stuff. I'm not talking about Doctor Who. I've made my position very clear. Even though some around me think, that, I should do what I've been doing on the channel for years and talk about Doctor Who, but I just can't bring myself to talk about the show right now. And there is some major updates that have happened, but as I said, there are other channels out there, people that we know that cover this. So my suggestion would be is go and watch those guys talk about Doctor Who if you want some Doctor Who content, because at the moment the only Doctor Who content that will be coming out of this channel will be Classic Who when I bring it back, but for now this will be the type of topics that we'll be doing. Friday Night Contact will be in full swing next week. Obviously we came back Friday, we had a shorter stream than we normally do, but next week, this Friday, we will have a bumper packed night and we'll be here for a few hours. So join us for that. We got plenty still going on the channel. Even if, some people out there, as I said, don't agree with me stance. That's the stance I'm taking. As far as I'm concerned, RTD has no right to talk to fans like that. Even if you do agree or disagree with them, at the end of the day, he should be used to criticism. He gets criticism all the time. You don't tell fans to F off. And for that reason, that's the reason why I'm not doing any Doctor Who content at the moment. Lindsay is in the chat. We got 8 people watching at the moment. I know some of you will come in the chat as you all get in here. But come on in, say hello. Let me know what your favorite Hollywood movies are. We're going for old movies, folks. Tell us, we want to hear from you guys as well. You tell us why you think old Hollywood movies are better than today's movies. Obviously, we had a lot of opinion last week. We're trying to get, and as this conversation, as I said, went so great last week, everybody wanted us to follow up on it. So that's what we're going to do. But we got Lindsay, and she says definitely the Hammer films, Dracula, Frankenstein, and The Mummy. Peter Harrington is also in the chat, and he's saying hello to Lindsay there and everybody on the panel. How far back in Hollywood, Peter? That's up to you. Whatever movies inspired you when you were growing up, let us know what those movies are, and let us know the reason why they inspired you and why you think that movie in particular that you like, or movies that you like in particular, are better than the movies that we get today in Hollywood. And as I said, the example we'll give today of movies is obviously the Flash movie is being panned. The Little Mermaid movie is not. It will be lucky if it breaks even. So these are the type of big budget movies that they're doing today. And basically what I'm asking is, why were movies so much better back then? And why were they so much better, like in quality? Because there does seem to be a bit of a quality issue with these big budget movies. But we do have Christian here from the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS, who will be delving into this mystery with me, and obviously given a few examples of movies he grew up with as well, and why, well, if he agrees, if old movies are better than Hollywood, I don't know. We didn't actually get that far because we went down a rabbit hole of everybody's movies. So, Christian, are you at the belief that older movies are better than today's movies?
Oh, hell yeah! I mean, there was so much love and so much more put into it. I think. Hey, Peter. Hey, kid, Lindsay, and everybody in the chats. You can tell that there was love poured into these movies, and they actually meant something. I mean, we're talking about stuff back then. I'm like, I like to focus. I know we can even go further back, but I mean, we're talking my generation, the '80s. I mean, Raiders of the Lost Ark. All these movies that came out. I
Mm.
mean, Raiders is far superior than the last two movies that came out. I haven't even seen the last one, but I'm just like, I I'm gonna be honest. And tell me if I'm wrong about this when it comes to things like this. I was one of those folks when I was growing up. Don't spoil the movie. Don't spoil the movie. I don't.
Mm.
I want to learn. Today, I don't know if anybody else. If you really want to know what's going on in a movie, go to Wikipedia after it premieres, and you'll have the entire plot. And I do that, and I do it intentionally because if it's going in a direction that I like, and people are going like, "Why would you do that to yourself?" Physically going to a cinema was,
Because you don't
and
want to waste your
yeah, it
time.
was. Yeah, you're right,
But you
Peter.
see,
It
the
was
thing
an
about it is
adventure.
today, years ago, you went to the cinema or the pictures, wherever you called it back in the day. You went to see a movie, and it didn't matter. You wouldn't be looking, as you said, on Wikipedia or Outlook, because Wikipedia didn't exist. But we didn't want movies spoiled. But nowadays, I think you are right. I think people want to know what the movie is before they go in and watch it now, because money is precious, and people want to spend. If people go to the movies today, they want to know that the movie that they're going into is going to be entertaining, first of all. And I think that is happening a lot. I think a lot of people, and we've seen it in the last few years recently, Christian, is that people won't actually go and see a movie until they hear what other people have to say about it, or they read up on it themselves. Not like the old days where you went in with blind faith and you just hope that these movies would be great. And
Well,
majority of the time, they turned out to be great.
well, not necessarily because I don't know if it was where you were from, but the gold standard was Siskel and Ebert, and they could make or break a movie depending upon what they
Yeah.
said. That they were the gold standard, and for the most part, I would tend to believe that they were
I
right.
mean, I've looked at some of his reviews, some
Yeah,
movies that he
no, no,
criticized
yeah,
back in the day, Star Wars and stuff, man. Come
some of
on.
the reviews you could go, yeah, whatever, guys. I mean, looking back retrospectively, but yeah, for the most part, they set the standard. Today, uh, you know, I tell people, would you have watched all of Game of Thrones if I told you that Series 8 was going to end up the way it did? Would you have bothered investing in that much? When I say that, when I go into the plot, read it, even though I'm technically, yeah, you could say that there's a spoiler, Lindsay. There's too many spoilers before they come. Yeah, there've been some movies where the trailer was the entire movie. I mean, I was like, why would you see it? All the trailer was something that could have been 90 minutes long, could have been a 10-minute YouTube video, and probably been more um, entertaining than sitting there bored out of your mind 90 minutes when they took a 10-minute storyline and stretched it to 90, or just watch this 10-minute video on YouTube. And a lot of people are, fanfics and everything are coming out with stuff that's really more entertaining than you see on your television screens. And it's really, these are supposed to be the cream of the crops. These are supposed to be the Spielbergs, the Lucases, the Gary Marshalls, the top of their prime, and they're nowhere near it. It's kind of like, I know you don't want to talk about it, but it's kind of like comparing today's Doctor Who writers to Terrence Dicks, Robert Holmes, um, Douglas Adams, all of those that came before, and like, you guys don't even shine their shoes. So I come to the point where it spoiled me because I want to know the product like a vehicle before I drive off the lot. And if I'm not
Yeah.
happy about it, why would I even bother sitting in the car? My
Yeah.
first was trial and Heston plans to the ace with my mom. Saw the end first. You maniacs blew it up. It's so engraved in my head. Did I ever tell you the story about time bandits for me? The
No.
accidental time bandits? Yeah, true story. And I thought I was a stupid kid too. This was around the time during the 80s when ET was sold out everywhere. You could not watch it unless you got in there and pitched your tent outside the theater the day before. I mean, it was that incredible. So our families found out the day that we went. A bunch of families got together and said, "Listen, we're going to go watch ET," and it was sold out. Lo and behold, they bought tickets and we went to the movie theater. Nobody bothered to tell me it was Time Bandits. For like the first 30 minutes I'm watching, I'm waiting for ET to show up. I'm like, what the hell is this movie? And when I was a kid, I thought it was kind of weird and downright just strange. But over time, when I grew up with it, Time Bandits has become my top 5 movie. It always foots around. It's never usually number 1, but it's usually between 2 and 5. It always just foots around out there, and it's a movie I usually recommend to everybody. And that was, Terry Gilliam at his prime, and you had actors like I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I'm sorry, I don't know the cast. David Warner, of course, Michael Rappaport. And all those guys, so they all work together. And then, especially when I'm hearing things that they're thinking about making a series out of Time Bandits, I said, no, that was lightning in a bottle that should never have happened, and it did, and I am thankful it happened. It was just an incredible movie, and you had John Cleese as Robin Hood, and Michael Palin, and Shelley Duvall, at the prime, and Sean Connery, for crying out loud, was convinced to do this movie. And I was just like, I didn't know it at the time, but now as an adult, I recommend this movie to anybody because it was just beautiful. But this was 80s stuff, and there was so much love and things poured into these movies that CGI couldn't cover today. Hey Jamie, the budgets are too high, so unless the movie makes $2 billion, it's a flop. Also, cinema tickets are too expensive compared to the past. I want to see a movie, not put a down payment on a second-hand car. Lindsay says, the first cinema I saw was Star Wars A New Hope when I was 5. Fell asleep halfway through it. Remember seeing Superman 2 and loved it. When I was a kid, I was watching Doctor Who Classic. I fell asleep. But when I woke back up, I watched it. I kept watching it.
It does happen with some movies, You can fall asleep. I did it at the Blair Witch Project 2.
Really?
Book of Shadows. The second one, not the first one. First one, to me, opened up that whole genre to the mainstream audience, and it's actually not a bad movie. But I went to see the second one thinking, well, the first one was pretty decent. I'll go and see the second one. Short 20 minutes in, I was already asleep. It was that.
Well, the first one again was lightning in a bottle because they came up with an idea that worked so well. What was it? A budget of like 100,000, and they made like 100 million. I'm just like, off of what appears to be, they just took a camera and started walking around, and I saw the documentaries and everything. Let alone everybody was convinced because they used the web to their advantage.
Yeah,
they put out a whole website making it look like that this was real.
They were dead as well. Yeah, they put in their own. They'd actually put in their own deaths and everything because even at the start the movie, everybody's convinced it's real, and it's
not only that, but here's the funny part of the trivia: the woman, I can't think of her name. The woman was
Heather.
Guest host Heather premiered on I think it was Conan O'Brien or one of the late night talk shows just a couple days before the release. So I'm just like, nobody caught that she's alive and well, and she's promoting this movie called Blair Witch. But that's what got everybody installed. They used the tech that they had to their advantage. They did it on a shoestring budget. They did it with a wonky camera, and they did some amazing things. Like they would put the actors in the tent. They wouldn't tell them anything, and the guys filming would like hit the tent every now and then, or put objects out there so they would get the realism of the actors' first time seeing something or experiencing something, so it would freak them out. But it worked to its advantage. It knew what it was, but that was it. There was no way that you can make 5 films, and the second one was, the second one I think should have been a separate movie. It should have been away from the Blair Witch. I think it should have been its own movie. It might have done better.
Yeah, I agree, because Book of Shadows, like the second one, it's a different tone, and while they are still kind of using the whole. It's not handheld. They're using security footage this time.
Right.
It didn't work. It didn't work, in my opinion. That was a separate story in the same universe. You could have done that and then carried on the Blair Witch, because I mean, even the updated versions of the Blair Witch, I have to say, I give them credit because they tried to go back to the core of what made these movies great. And in one of the movies, they actually come full circle, which I like as well. But it's that second movie. That second movie will always be, as I consider it, to be the worst movie I have ever seen in my life. And I've seen some TV, straight to TV movies that I have found more enjoyable than that piece of crap that I watched in the
I think
cinema.
I think it just soured the grapes because we were so accustomed to Blair Witch.
Yeah.
And when they said they were coming out with a sequel and it was Book of Shadows, I'm just like, no, you're trying to reinvent lightning, and they tried to make it into a movie. Blair Witch worked on a camcorder. The story was there, the premise was there. If you were trying to sequelize it, there was no way you're going to reinvent it unless somehow you update the stakes. But that should have been like a movie on its own. I mean, it could have had some shadow to it, but I think everybody was expecting a second coming of Blair Witch, like another. I was thinking if you're going to make a sequel, you would probably have another group of people try to find them, or the people who found the video.
They did. That's what they did. They got one of the people that were lost in the original one. In the latest one, what they do is one of the brothers or sisters of that group decides that they want to investigate what happened to them. So they go back and they use drones this time. But it's actually very good. There's even a twist in it that I didn't even see coming. Right?
I saw that. It was okay, but that should have been the second movie, and it should have been filmed camcorder, and it should have been.
I agree. That's. If they finished with that move, but you're absolutely right. If we had the Blair Witch Project and then this one was the second movie in the franchise, then you could get away with Book of Shadows. You know what I mean? Then you could get away with Book of Shadows because, you completed the story arc of the first one, right? You wrap it up in a nice little bow in the second one. And then for the third one, then you expand out on the universe. And that's what they should have done. But they weren't thinking at the time. As you said, lightning in a bottle. They did it with Jaws as well. These movies, even the classic movies, suffer from this as well. They capture lightning in a bottle, and then they want to do a sequel. Now, don't get me wrong, Jaws 2 is actually not a bad movie, but literally it's a rehash of the first one, just different.
Well, when they came up with Book of the Shadows, the idea, I just thought about, they should have had a new title. It should have said something like, years ago, the team, blah, 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 the later the footage was found. Here's the team that found the footage. Like one person escapes because the Blair Witch wants this person to send the message to everybody as to what happened here. And it's like, don't come here. Don't, and use the video and one person will survive and bring the footage back or something, or maybe they get killed off later. But
it was the same with Sinister, actually. Do you know that, Christian? It was the same with Sinister. The fourth Sinister movie with Ethan Hawke is absolutely brilliant. There's actually a few jump scares in that are not even actually cheap. They're earned and all, right? The movie, for me, if you haven't seen a Sinister, the fourth Sinister movie is a creepy movie. Even the music in it is creepy and makes you feel unsettled, right? But they did a sequel to that movie, right? And basically what they done was they got the best part of the movie, which I'm not going to spoil. And basically for the second one, they just kept repeating and repeating and repeating and repeating and repeating. It was absolutely dire, right? Again, they managed to find lightning in a bottle with that movie, and they just couldn't leave it as the first one. They had to do a second one, and it just totally fecked it up for me. But Cheryl recently watched that movie with me because she hates horrors, but she loved it, man. It's a great movie. If you haven't watched Sinister, check it out, but don't check the second one out. Listen, for the love of God, right? If you want a great horror movie, right, you don't even need a second movie, because even the way the first movie ends, you understand exactly what's going on. Like, they tell you everything that's got, you find out in the last act, right? Everything comes together and you find out there was no need for a sequel. The sequel is just pure laziness. Like, they did leave it open. In fairness, they did right at the end of the movie, but you will see. They leave it open. But to me, that would have been a better ending, just leaving it like that, leaving it hanging. You don't need to do another one to explain more of the story. We got enough of the story. It's good. Leave it like that. You know? They did it with Nightmare on Elm Street as well. No offense around, but man, there's 7 of those movies or something altogether. Right? Was there a need for all of those movies? No, you probably could have done a Nightmare on Elm Street trilogy and done the story. And of course, they did try bring the rebooted version, which again was a poor carbon copy of the original. But again, it shows, and this is why Hollywood fails as well. We see a lot. Nowadays, they try to bring back all the beloved characters that we grew up with, thinking that that's going to help a movie. And we've seen that with The Flash. But it's just so startling to me, Christian, how we've gone from making the movies that they made, and even back before the 80s, right? We could go back, you're right, we could go back to the 1920s and 1930 early movies, absolutely fantastic. Like I grew up with all those black and white movies, the silent movies and all of that. Like, that was my childhood because my dad still watched them, Laurel and Hardy and all of that. Like, grew up with them all, right? So I know my movies, even the westerns as well, John Wayne, grew up with all of those. Feckin' like every time, but the thing about it is that, like, it just startles me how we've gone from making the movies that we made to the shite that they're giving us now. I mean, is it a lack of talent, Christian, or do you think that they rely? Is it laziness and the fact that they rely too much on technology, or is it the fact that Hollywood just doesn't have the great writers that it once had when we were growing up? All those times are gone now. We just have to deal with the mediocre crap that we're getting for a while until new talented writers come through.
All the above. Just, and then we're going from one person to another who, you know, we consider the gold standard of Hollywood, and then you got people. Tell me a name of somebody now that you appreciate, either a writer or director in current year, or I'll even say in the past 5 years, that you appreciated their craft, their work. And I got something I want to go back to an old JWC on something, because I don't know if you knew JWC. There was a comment about the Halloween 3, and I don't know if you're aware. I just want to clarify something up over there. Also, I'm very biased. You mentioned Jaws. Jaws 3 was filmed here. That's why I have a little bias of the movie.
Oh, that movie is just awful.
Yeah, I was just like,
I mean, it's a total shit show, that movie.
You know what? It's one of those.
I remember getting the 3D glasses for that shit, man. I remember there was a big deal when it came out on home video, right? You got the 3D glass. So you went into the video store. They say, right, you're renting Jaws. How long do you want to rent it for? Jaws 3. We'll have it for 2 nights. Grand. How many is in the house? We got 7 of us. Okay, so you need 7 3D glasses. So you know the little paper with the blue and the red, right? So go home, put the videotape in, put the glasses on, and I'm being honest, it was probably the worst movie. Well, it's up there with Blair Witch 2, Book of Shadows. The difference is I didn't fall asleep at Jaws 3. I just laughed mostly.
It was filmed at SeaWorld, which I now today in retrospect go, like, isn't that a theme park, like, having a movie done and showing its Ferris wheel falling off? I'm like, it's not something that SeaWorld would want to, like, promote. I was like, how did the sales of SeaWorld go, telling people, hey, there's a possibility
but back then companies, you remember all their movies that we grew up with and TV shows, the product placement. If you go back and watch half of these things that we had, the product placement was over the top, man.
No. Like, I agree with that. I understand the product placement, but it'd be like somebody drinking a Pepsi and then finding glass in their Pepsi, and just like, is that something you want to product place out there?
Isn't there a famous incident with E.T. E.T. producers and director wanted to use M&Ms, but M&Ms refused, and they used Reese's Pieces, and then that's how Reese's Pieces then became so popular with everybody.
Oh yeah, it went out phenomenal.
Can I add, right, for someone that has an American wife and that has tried Reese's Pieces, all I just want to say is can eat dog shit, right? Because they're not better than M&Ms, and you Americans, you really do have a fascination with them. I don't get it. Right, I've tried all these most of these are candy over there because I have an American wife. All I'm just gonna say is why does it taste all shit? Right, you don't have great candy at all, man.
You like it?
Snowballs. I tried these are snowballs.
Oh no, I don't like snowballs.
Snowballs joke. I tried these are Twinkies, right? Twinkies, they taste like chemical shit, man, and me poo afterwards. Holy shit, man. One thing I will say about American candy and food is that if you're constipated all the time, there's no problem with you having a shit because whatever they put in that crap comes out of you, right? No wonder you are mad over there and fucking all the chemicals you put in it. All of their stuff, yeah. I'm not saying all of their stuff is chemical free, but I tell you, compared to American stuff, man, you are chocolate as well. And what's this fascination with putting peanut butter on everything? Seriously, man, I'm married to Sharon, right? I'll put peanut butter toast. I'll put a few bananas on that as well.
No, I don't. I toast it. Peanut butter. PBJ is my favorite, but getting back to the Reese's Pieces. I know it's dog. That was my favorite candy as a kid. Not only that, but it made a difference if you threw it in the freezer and ate it. It gave it like a harder texture.
But I mean, the fact that you had to do that.
But let me get back to real fast on the Halloween.
Halloween tree, yeah.
Halloween 3, if you didn't know, JWC was not a Michael Myers film at all. It was
but why did they call it? But hold on, why did they? Right, fair enough. We all get that because this was said before.
Yeah.
But why was it called Halloween then?
Because everything was supposed to take place on that night. It was supposed to be a Halloween. Michael Myers was another lightning in a bottle. It was, but it was supposed to be an anthology. It wasn't supposed to be these stories because the second story wasn't supposed to be the same. That's why the third story was Season of the Witch. The only time you even get to see Michael Myers in the third one is like on a TV promo for like maybe 3 seconds, and that was it. And everybody was coming to theaters, but that was what John Carpenter wanted. He wanted an anthology. He wanted different Halloween movies. So he made the mistake of making that second movie that came out and was just as popular as the first. Now he got this juggernaut called Michael Myers, doesn't know what to do with it. But he went in and tried to fight for his anthology, made the third movie Season of the Witch, and people were pissed because there was no Michael Myers. So if you notice, the fourth title of the movie, the title of the fourth movie, The Return of Michael Myers. That's why, because they wanted people to know, well, I guess we created this monster.
That's a pity though, isn't it? It is a pity that he didn't get to complete because obviously the fourth movie was so popular and people wanted more Michael Myers. It's like Ridley Scott, right? When Ridley Scott came back to the Alien franchise, he had the belief that fans had gotten sick and tired of the xenomorph, right? And he wanted to do this. He wanted to build this whole universe with the Alien, with his franchise, you know. So that's why he did Prometheus and then he did Covenant, because he was trying to build this universe, and there was supposed to be sequels of those. So Prometheus was going to get its separate sequel, and then Covenant was going to get its separate sequel. So he was going to branch out. But what he didn't realize was, because he said fans had been sick and tired of the xenomorph. What he didn't realize is that everybody wasn't sick and tired of the xenomorph. No. The problem was that the movies that had come after Aliens were all pretty much shit, right? But there was one thing that fans will all agree on, is that the story that they wanted completed was Ripley's story, and we wanted the alien to finally get on Earth, because that was the whole point of trying to destroy the alien in the first movie, and especially in the second movie. Right, so the escape, an egg has managed to get on board, right, or whatever. The queen lays an egg because she kills the queen, right, blows the queen out into space. The queen, before it dies, lays an egg, whatever, blah, blah, blah. While they're in stasis, then they find out that, a fucking alien has gotten onto Earth, and then we would have had our fourth movie, even though, like, in reality, it would have been Aliens 3, because you discount Aliens 3 and Resurrection because they were absolutely dire movies. I do have a soft spot for Resurrection, though, I will say, even though I know it's a terrible movie, but there's some of my favourite moments in the franchise in that movie. It's just so, you know, I mean, Sigourney Weaver didn't really want to come back, but she came back. You know, money talks, I
Well, she doesn't.
suppose.
Yeah. Well, nobody wants to be tied down over and over again because
Yeah.
everybody wants to get to the point where, okay, is this my future? Can I do another movie, or is everybody going to see me as Ellen Ripley? But I mean, there's people. I'm trying to think of the top of my head who kind of, when they first did a role that made them astronomical, and then they turned away from it because they didn't want to be tied down. But then all of a sudden they turned around and said, no, this is, I should be doing this. This is why I'm even here. This is why even body pays attention to me, because they like me in this role. Yeah, the third one was just wonky. And
well, the director's cut of the third one, JWC reviews is right in a way. If you watch the theater version, then you're going to be disappointed. But if you watch the director's cut, Dave Fincher's cut, Dave Fincher's always come out. Look, I don't blame Dave Fincher, right? Because Dave Fincher's done some great movies that I actually like stylistically. I think he's a great director, right? But the studio interfered with Aliens 3. He had a totally different movie in mind. This whole movie was going to explore more about the alien. But, of course, you know, you bring Sigourney Weaver back. You know, the studio want to make it about her. You know, so he was fighting. So the movie that you get is not really Dave Fincher's movie. Even the director's cut, you could argue, is not his vision for the movie. He had a totally different vision for Aliens. So I don't blame him, I blame the studio. But the director's cut, at least, because he was able to add some elements himself that he wasn't able to add, make the movie slightly better. But it's still fucking no, it's a bad movie, man. It's Paul McGann's great, and I agree with you. I don't know who I forget the black actor's name, but he's brilliant in it. The Scottish actor is deadly in it as well. Look, he had a great cast. Having a great cast doesn't guarantee you a successful movie.
Exactly, especially when the writing is just, you know, where are we going with this? This should have been the movie that they landed on Earth. It should have been either Ripley should have seen the Queen kill Newt in front of her, and that should have raised the stakes of like, oh, the alien is pregnant and is trying to, you know, make more babies and stuff like that on Earth. And it's, you know, the fact that the mother, or the Queen, I should say, if we did something like killed the kid right in front of Ripley, that would be like, you know, the mother losing a child right to it. That would have raised the stakes for me. And then having everything happen on Earth, you know, the way it should have been, we never get them to Earth. And I said, well, the whole point is to get them to Earth. And plus it was mother against mother. And that's how the dynamic of the second movie worked. It was, you know, get away from her, you be. You know, to me, it was
that's
like
still my fault. I don't care what anybody says, right? I love Aliens, right? I love Alien. Alien would be the perfect sci-fi horror movie, in my opinion. The second one had a little bit more action in it, right? But that is one of my favorite scenes, right? When the Queen is trying to get Newt, and then she comes out in the fucking forklift robot thing and goes, "Get away from her, you bitch!" And I was like, "Yeah!"
Because we like those moments where, you know, the hero turns, even if the hero doesn't end up winning per se, which she did, you know, we just want the moments of epic, redemption. Though. Yeah. Oh yeah. We want those moments of redemption where things just change around. We want to get pumped up. That's no different than when, you know, our favorite team wins a point and they're leading in the game. Yeah. And it's 3/4 of the way in. It's no different. It's just that we get pumped up. We're excited for what's about to happen, and we don't know exactly sure how it's going to end, but we're here. And we're vested, and we are just here to have a good time, and we want a good cat fight between a piece of metal with Ellen Ripley
and Bill Paxton, man. Bill Paxton makes that movie as well. Oh my
We're
god, man. Yeah, I just love it. It's game over, man. It's game over. They're gonna come in here and I'm like, shut up. But you love him, man. Oh man, seriously, man. I only recently
because you need that one guy who just has to be like,
yeah.
you need to shut up. You need to.
I just recently watched the
put it down.
director's cut of both movies, Alien and Aliens. I haven't gone to Aliens 3 yet, but my whole plan was to do the whole franchise. But after the second one, I put on started the third one, and I just had to turn it off. I'm still not ready to watch that movie, man. Again, I just look. It's for me. You know, that franchise should have ended with Aliens. You know, some people will argue should have ended with Alien, but Aliens was a good entry into the franchise. But Ridley Scott, and this is another thing why I think Hollywood is failing today, and why, you know, you've got a lot of these Hollywood gurus who made these brilliant movies that we grew up with. And there's no denying they did. They made some of the greatest movies that we've ever watched. And what's sad to see is a lot of these great directors and writers and storytellers that because, you know, they're great in their eyes because they were big, massive part of our childhood. What's sad is to see a lot of them, like Ridley Scott. You know, you got Spielberg as well, who's been hot and cold the last couple of years. But I still think Spielberg has it, to be quite honest with you. But he's getting to that point in his career where, you know, he's not going to be the main man. But this is the sad thing for me. It's a lot of these older directors and writers that had past glories coming back to their old franchises, like Ridley Scott did with Alien. Now you've got him coming back to Gladiator again. I mean, the first movie I watched last week, guys, right? I wrote up about it on Twitter, right? That movie still holds up today. That is still one of the greatest movies ever made, in my opinion. If you haven't seen Gladiator, I mean, you are missing out. It's one of the greatest movies. And that final scene, that final act is just absolutely brilliant, right? But Ridley Scott's coming back now, and he's doing another one with Pedro Pascal. And don't get me wrong, it'll probably be good. I'm not going to knock it and say it's going to be crap, right? It probably will be good. But why even going near it again? Gladiator was the perfect movie. You don't need to be making a second one. It's like with Joaquin Phoenix with the Joker movie, right? You didn't really need to make a second one. But now they're trying to make the second one completely different to the fourth one, that they're adding a musical element to it. And that's what they needed to do to freshen it up, to make it different. But for me, I don't think the Joker 2, it probably will be a great movie and everybody will love the musical numbers. But if you're asking me if that movie's going to make more than the first one, it's not. It's not that movie, that first movie with Joaquin Phoenix was lightning in a bottle. You don't, what DC should have done there was, right? You've done that with the Joker character and it's worked. Now look at other characters within the DC universe, or characters that you wouldn't even have thought about bringing forward because they're too dark for the mainstream audience, and start introducing more of these characters, or giving us different stories of established characters, take them out of their universe that we're used to and stick them in somewhere that's obviously it's been written down as a comic or something. Like, just do something different like they do with the animations, right? But now they have to really, I don't think they should be doing that. And this is another thing which I think why Hollywood is failing today is that they're so focused on doing sequels and remakes rather than do all of these, come up with new ideas like they did in the 80s and the 90s when we were growing up. I mean, even the 90s movies, were they as good as the 80s? I wouldn't really say so. No, 90s was a bit more action. I remember action-driven and stuff like that. And the action movies of the 90s, Steven Seagal and all of those other lads, great. Absolutely great movies, entertaining movies. Do they hold up today? Some of them, no, absolutely fucking awful, especially Steven Seagal movies. They're played in age terribly. But they were great at the time. They were entertaining. We don't even get that now. We don't even get that now. Do you know what I've even started to do? Do you know all of these these actors, the established actors that we used to know, that had great careers but are doing all these B movies because they're not making movies. I'll watch those B movies over the mainstream movies that they release today. Because even though some of them are bad, I'm not gonna lie, but some of them you might find a gem or two here, right? But the reason why they haven't gotten any legs is because it went straight to DVD sort of thing. But some of them do be even better than the big mega blockbusters that we're getting today.
Well, my biggest question to anybody who puts out a film, oh, thanks, Petey. Anybody who puts out a film, or somebody says we're going to remake this, or we're going to make a sequel to this, my first question to you is why? And if I can't get a straight answer or a good reason, I'm not going to see your movie. Why are we doing this? Or if you're doing it for money, hey, man, I'll even attest to that. But you better have something good beyond we're making this for money, or the first one did well. Because sometimes the first one is the only one that needs to be said. There's people that believe like Doctor Who should enter this multiverse, and I'm just like saying, but why? Everybody else is doing it, so Doctor Who has to do it? Why are we entering into this realm? If we are going to go this realm, what's the good story? What's your direction? Where do you see this in 5 years? As like Jamie said, I think, how many times do we need to see the 127th superhero movie? We don't. And that's why these things are not doing as well, because we've been saturated. You're not giving us good product over time. The DCU, the Marvel has kind of, I think, just run its course, and just like after Endgame, what is there? What story is to tell besides the multiverse? Sony got lucky with the 3 Spider-Man movie, and DC emulate Marvel and tried to get to the lightning round, and they just tripped over every rock that they kept running over, and it just looks disgusting now. And I don't think I've seen a DC movie in quite some. I haven't seen anything Marvel in quite some time. I mean, Endgame was the last thing. I haven't even seen the Suicide Squad, and I wanted to see it because
listen, I've tried. I've tried. Even after Endgame, I thought, right, okay, it's kind of finished for me. But I'll try these new things that they're releasing. Listen, bottom line is this, right? Whether Marvel likes to admit it or not, it all finished after Endgame. End of story. That was the Endgame. DC right now are in a position where they don't well. James Gunn probably thinks he could still save DC, but DC is dead in the water. The Flash movie guaranteed that. When and I was only told this last week, so I didn't know this, right? But if the Batgirl movie is screening better with test audiences than the Flash movie, but then you decide to bin the Batgirl movie because apparently it was terrible, and you go ahead and put all your chips on Ezra Miller. Remember, the man who has been charged, and by the way, everything that I say on stream here is actually fact. The guy should be in prison. Simple as that. He shouldn't be making movies. But they hedged all their bets on him. The movie now has flopped because people have realised that it is full of member berries, and the fact that they shit on 2 of our characters that we grew up with as kids, which I won't mention. Well, there's actually 3, but 2 main ones. And then, I mean, if you count Supergirl, the movie years ago, I mean, a lot of people don't like Supergirl, the movie. I actually like that movie. I have a soft spot for that movie as well. I have a soft spot for a few movies out there that I shouldn't have. But Supergirl, I did like. But if you shit over, and this is all I'm going to say, if you shit over our Superman, our Supergirl, and then you treat Michael Keaton's Batman the way you did in the movie, well, then you can go and F yourself. Right? Nobody gives a fuck. The DCEU, wherever you want to call it, extended universe, is dead. All of this is dead. And you are right. And this is the only thing I will say on Doctor Who. I think RTD is making a big mistake. At the time, I didn't think he was, because It was still, even though people were complaining about stuff that was coming out by Marvel and DC and Star Wars, there was still optimism. There was still hope that they could turn it around. But it's a different climate now. People have gotten fed up of multiverses and extended universes, and I think this is a mistake. But look, that's all I'm going to say on it. He has his vision. Let him see. Let's see what happens. But I don't hold out any hope if you look at what's been happening recently.
Well,
But,
he's only expressed interest into it. I don't know if he's actually doing it, but I mean, now we've got a lot of loose ends thanks to his predecessor. I'm like, what do we do with this mess in the corner? And just like, well, do we keep it in the corner? And the whole mere fact that a showrunner will say, well, a device that I put into this series, I don't think my successor is going to be looking at, tells me that you failed. I'm just like, you're not saying those exact words, but you're openly telling me that you threw in this device, you knew, it wasn't going to work. It split the fans right down the middle, as far as, and I don't even think down the middle. I think more people now, especially after Flux, are arguing that, now this timeless children is crap. What were you thinking? But what we should have been doing is trying to heal the universe. We should have been people. If you want me to be incorporated in what you want to do, you want me to feel as welcome as I can. And if I have my discretion, if I have my issues, I should be able to label them. I should be able to tell you them without any retort, without any humiliation, without any reason to feel that I feel uncomfortable about telling you these things, because maybe I want you to be a better product. Maybe I want, this is a product that I'm relying on. And if you're going to go in here and just shove it in the duty right in front of my face, then what am I supposed to say? Am I supposed to approve of this? Am I supposed to go, yeah, well, it looks like crap, but I get, I want this show to work, and I really wanted Jodie to work, but it wasn't going to be in the hands of the guy who took the Titanic and rammed it into the iceberg. No.
yeah. Even if there wasn't an iceberg there, he still would have rammed it into something.
Yeah,
anyway,
exactly.
We'll leave it there on that one. But look, before we do go and wrap up, I think it'd be nice to finish this this second part of this stream. We will touch on this again sometime in the future, but next week we're gonna focus on classic TV shows and new TV shows and stuff like that, and we're going to talk about the good and the bad of classic and new TV shows. And there's plenty out there. We're going to have a bit of a laugh as well. But I think it'd be very fitting that we've been talking about movies, that myself and Christian recommend 3 movies for you guys to actually go and watch. And then maybe when we touch on this again, you can tell us what you thought of those movies. Maybe, hopefully, we give you suggestions of movies that you haven't actually seen. So, do you want to go first, Christian, or do you want to do shout outs first, give you a little bit of time to think, then give us your 3 movies? Or have you got 3 movies that you throw out offhand?
I might need time to put in that 3rd movie, but
right, well, give us your 2 choices. Go on.
Patton and Time Bandits. I would definitely put in, like I said, the Patton has always been my number 1. Time Bandits has always floundered around between 2 and 5 every now and then. I'm trying to think of a 3rd one, and it's just not happening because there's so many out there. But those 2 definitely don't miss. Patton is an old movie, but I mean, for the cinematography and the acting and the directing, it's one of those movies. It's a guilty pleasure. But I mean, I like stupid movies too, like Basketball. That was, for in the mind of people, that was a dumb movie. But I like movies where I just go in there and totally engrossed in the silliness. I guess the 3rd one, and I should not even doubt why I'm picking this one, Airplane. And even though the jokes are still dated, it was a movie that just broke the standards. It broke the mold on everything. One of the movies that broke the 4th wall, where he goes, "What a pisser!" It's just mindless fun. That's all it was. It was supposed to. It has dated jokes, but then I'm going to spin off to the Naked Gun series, and they have dated jokes too. But you were talking about Leslie Nielsen, who the man was the top of his game of silliness, and I still watch the. If I'm having a bad day, I'm watching those movies over and over
Yeah.
and over again.
For me now, if I was down, the person that I'd go to is Adam Sandler. I love Adam Sandler movies.
Oh, there you go.
But he, you know, I kind of grew up with his movies. But my first movie is actually called The Final Countdown with Kirk Douglas.
Oh,
and
okay.
this movie is an interesting movie because this movie is a little bit of time travel. So basically, Kirk Douglas, just to give you a brief synopsis without giving it too much away, but Kirk Douglas is obviously commanding an American U.S. naval ship. And while they're off doing some training, they get caught up in this mysterious beam. And then they all ship breaks loose. And then when they come to, they realize that they're actually back. Well, I won't tell you where they're back, but they find out that they're not where they should be. And then there's this whole moral dilemma. They have a dilemma on their hands, and something that you know, if they interfere with, will change history. If they let happen, history will go the way that history was supposed to go, and everything is rosy. So It's an interesting movie. If you haven't seen it, that is definitely a movie I would recommend, which is The Final Countdown with Kurt Russell, and I think Kurt Douglas, and I think it's you can get it on Google Play, Apple TV, and you can get it on YouTube. But I'm pretty sure this movie is easy to find. And it's it got 3.5 stars on IMDb, which for a lot of movies today, 3.5 stars is pretty average. But back in the day, 3.5 stars was actually pretty good. So yeah, that's my first movie. My second movie is another war movie. Got to be honest, it's got to be Platoon. One of the greatest movies ever made, in my opinion. But I think everybody's really seen that. So that one is not. But you know, I suppose everybody's kind of seen that one. Maybe not The Final Countdown. But the third one is the one which I can never think of the name of it. I'm gonna have to Google it. But it's basically it's the movie about your man on the biospheres in space, and then they're told to destroy them, and he goes a bit crazy, and like he basically murders the crew and stuff like that. What was the name of
You're not talking about the black hole, are you?
No, that's with what's his face, your man from Psycho.
Yeah, Anthony.
No,
Perkins.
Not Psycho.
Yeah, Anthony Perkins. Yeah, he was
yeah. No, it's not him. It's what's it called?
We'll look it up. Put it in the chat.
Hold on.
Somebody knows.
I'll find it.
Well, while you're saying
Silent Running. That's the one. Silent Running.
Okay. Got it.
Silent Running. I only recently rewatched that again. Now, I watched that as a kid growing up, right? With my dad obviously watched all of these sci-fi movies. My mom and dad are huge sci-fi geeks. And I watched it back recently, and I was like, holy shit, there's some real adult themes in this, man. And my parents were letting me watch this, and I was oblivious to it, like. But great movie, man.
Wait a minute. Was that the movie about, was that the Bruce Stern movie where he's stuck with the robots?
Yeah. Where he's stuck with the robot and the biospheres. That's a great movie.
I remember that movie. Oh my God. And you were right. It was just like, how can you show this? It's kind of like showing A Clockwork Orange to a kid. I'm like, what am I watching? What's going on here?
Well, I could have mentioned that. That is a cracking movie as well. And what's that other one as well that always gets stick, but it's actually a great bleeding space horror movie. It's the one with Sam Neill in it. What's it called? The
Event Horizon.
Yeah, that one. The Event Horizon.
Christ.
That is a cracking movie. And apparently there's a scene in that we've never seen that was so graphic that it was actually making people faint and get sick, and they took it out. I've always wanted to see that, but they've never put it in any of the special editions. that they've put out, man, that scene has to be seen, man, nowadays. But apparently it's so disturbing that it was making people. But they're the three moves. So the final countdown, Silent Running, and of course Platoon, which is the obvious one. I think a lot of people probably seen Platoon. But another one I just throw in there, keep mentioning it all the time. It's actually a Ben Affleck movie where he actually plays Superman. It's called Hollywoodland. It's about George Reeves.
Oh, the George Reeves story, yeah.
Yeah,
I haven't seen it, but I know about it.
Listen, mate, right? If you want a decent movie to sit down to, that's going to make you think, because what this movie does, it gives you scenarios, right? Sure. So at the end of the movie, it builds up, right? And then at the end, then it gives you scenarios. And basically, as the audience, your job is basically, well, what scenario do you think it was? Because as you know, for anybody that doesn't know, right, George Reeves' death has always been clouded in mystery, right? And the reason why that is because he was having an affair with a Hollywood studio owner's wife. Now, the Hollywood studio owner knew because he also had a mistress, right? So there's no secret. It was an open thing, right? They even went on meals together. But George Reeves split up with your one, and then your man apparently then tried to ruin his career. And some people are saying he committed suicide, right? Mm-hmm. And some people are saying he was murdered. And this is what this movie deals with. It gives you the two scenarios. Now, just to let you know something that the movie doesn't really tell you. An hour after he was shot, right, his girlfriend and the people that were in the house, because they were having a party while he went upstairs and apparently shot himself. There were bullet holes already up in the ceiling. There were bullet holes down on the floor already, right? They didn't ring the ambulance till an hour after the gunshot was actually heard, right? Wow. So this is where the rumor of the murder plot comes into it, because Hollywood back in those days, trust me, if an actor or an actress became a problem for a studio, right? If they couldn't handle it the proper way, they would handle it a different way, if you get what I'm saying. So there's there's documentaries and stuff on Hollywood hit squads, right, of years ago. This has gone on ever since Hollywood became rich and powerful and started making money. It was big business. I mean, even if there was actors out there, right, this is how they used to do it, right? And you see this in the movie Hollywoodland as well. You know, if there was a gay actor or a lesbian actress, right, and the studio found out about and they were filmed in an awkward position, what the studio then would do is they'd get another actor and actress to come in and say, right, you're going to pretend to be in a relationship with this bloke. You're going to pretend you're the actor and you're going to pretend to be in a relationship with her. These are going to be publicly all over each other and all that. We've got to kill that story. That's what they did. Now, if they couldn't do that, they found different ways to end actors and actresses' careers. You just have to look into. Listen, you go down the rabbit hole with this one, but it's a fascinating one. And maybe sometime in the next couple of weeks, me and Christian will actually talk about all of this hit squad and all of the dark, dirty secrets of Hollywood. Because there's also high-profile murders that have never been solved either, which would be fascinating to talk about. And that's the kind of stuff I want to do on the channel now. Stuff like that. And as I said, we will do some Classic Who. I will bring that back eventually. But for now, this is the type of stuff I want to do, because this is the type of stuff I enjoy talking about. Right now, I just don't want to talk about that British TV show. I really don't. I'm just sick and tired of all the nonsense that's coming out. And it's everywhere, right? It's not just Doctor Who. It's society as a whole as well. I'm just sick and tired of it all. I just need a break, right? And I need to talk about stuff that I actually enjoy talking about. And right now, I don't enjoy talking about Doctor Who. So I'm not going to cover it, because why? You know what I mean? Look, I'd be lying to myself. You would rather have me be true to myself rather than come on here, right, and drone on about how bad or what shoot he has done and what all of this nonsense that's going on, right? But I wouldn't enjoy it, and I wouldn't be true to myself. I'd be just coming on for the sake of ranting. And I'm not going to do that. I just don't give a crap anymore. I'll wait until the 60th comes. If RTD shows me that he still has it and it ends up being great, well then, as I said, I'm still going to give Shooty a go, right? But whether I talk about it on the channel or not will depend on how good or bad it is. Because if it's bad, I'm not coming on here for the next few years to complain about Doctor Who anymore. I'm done. Why should I? You know what I mean? It's not for me anymore, right? And that's the way we have to look at it. If RTD carries on Chibnall, right, route of doing things, but is worse than Chibs, right? There's no point. No point of coming on for the next 2-3 years complaining about it. Doctor Who is just not for me anymore, right? And that's what I'll have to accept.
Can I?
And it's hard. It'll be hard, but I'll have to accept it. It's just not for me anymore.
Can I make just a clarification? I don't think it's like what some of my friends say about politics is said. I didn't leave my party left me, and it's kind of hard to see. You know, I could see some people who have issues about the direction it's going in now, and I don't know. I haven't heard word back from what you told me. You can tell me like behind the scenes and stuff like that, but I don't know exactly what he said or what he did. And
he told Jack to fuck off. That's what he did, right? Jack went in, had a bad day, but Jack went in, saw that he was fucking talking about bleeding, the writer strike and all this. And Jack went in and basically said, is there any chance that you could stop shoving your politics down our throat and concentrate on Doctor Who? Now, Jack has admitted that shortly after he wrote it, because he's told people this, but this is what's being ignored.
And I'm sorry, who's Jack? My apologies.
Jack Main, the fella that draws the rabbits that does be on this channel.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Him, the nice fella, the fella that's grown up with RTD
I didn't know there was something else.
Right, so he told him to F off, right?
Yeah.
Now, and then RTD then blocked him, right? That was fine, fair enough. But the point was that, you know, Jack shortly after, you know, realised that he was a little bit harsh. He just had a bad day. You know, the first thing he saw on Instagram was RTD talking politics and he saw red. It happens, right? We all have bad days. Sometimes we do see red and we say things that we don't mean, right? So he did a stream to explain all of this. But it was after that, the backlash. After RTD had told him to fuck off and made it very public, Jack and everybody that was associated with him then was lumped in with all of this, right? As far as that, Lee had to go in and make a comment and John the White had to go in and make a comment because people then were baying for Jack's blood and people were celebrating on Twitter as if it was the best thing to happen, RTD telling a fan to F off. Now, I'm just going to make this point clear. Jack has made it clear that he did feel bad, you know, putting that post up on Instagram, right? And as I've made clear, I didn't necessarily agree with Jack's stance anyway. RTD could do whatever he wants on his own Instagram account, but that's not the point. The point is that RTD deals with criticism every day of the week, right? Now, when you start telling fans who have grown up with his era, by the way, Jack is one of those that grew up with RTD's era of Doctor Who, right? So when you tell a fan like that that's grown up and supported you, bought your merch to F off, then we have a problem, right? He deals with criticism all the time. He shouldn't be going on to Instagram or anywhere else telling fans to F off. I think RTD, since he went to America and came back, has a bit of a chip on his shoulder, right? He has a bit of an ego. And I reminded him that he wouldn't be where he was today if it wasn't for Doctor Who, if it wasn't for fans like Jack and classic fans like myself who actually backed him 100%, right? And on top of that as well, yes, while Badwood Studios is running the show with it, right, BBC Studios is still connected to the production of this, okay? Right, BBC Studios names, BBC's name still on it, still going to be shown on BBC. So therefore, he is answerable to those people that pay the TV license. All right? So he shouldn't be going telling fans. So that's why I have the stance that I have. There's no secret behind it. Some people think that I should just let it go now. But no, I'm not going to let it go. Because once he thinks that he could tell fans to F off, it'll just get worse. Just like Chibs did, right? He didn't tell fans to F off. He just told fans it's not a democracy, right? And I'm not going to have another dictator running the show again and telling fans to F off and telling them that they can get out of this fandom when they've supported this show for decades. Now, I've had enough of it, right? And that's why I'm not doing Doctor Who content. So that's my explanation. I'm not doing it because that man thinks he can go around and talk to fans like that. He can't. He has no right to do so. They're the people that have paid him and made him a rich man. Right? And I'm done.
Well,
So
he has the right to do so, but I don't think he should have the right to do so. I mean, it's,
no, he shouldn't be telling. No, he should listen.
Yeah,
he deals with
I mean,
criticism. He shouldn't be telling people to F off. No, unless that person is being absolutely hateful, like when he told the person to F off. That was that Christian fella that came on to some channel and started spewing his homophobia all over the place. When RTD told him to feck off and called him out, he had every right to do so, right? Because we were all in agreement with RTD. But for someone to, like, just because he didn't like your it doesn't matter. It's just politics. What are you getting your knickers in a twist for, right? And that's why I'm taking a stand on this. He has no right. He has no right. No, he doesn't. While he's working the Doctor Who, he behaves himself, right? RTD should be behaving himself. Shooty should be behaving himself. Doing naked, bleeding, fucking photo shoots and all. Kids are going to be looking at that, right? You got fucking Jinx Monsoon with the crap that she's coming out with. Basically telling people about sex life and then telling people, oh, some bloke left a condom, you know where. Nobody needs to hear that shit. I'm sick of it all. I've had enough of it. So I have to take a stand, right? Because that's what I'm known for, right? And I'm taking a stand because it's the right thing to do. Now, until RTD either changes his attitude, right, and these people that are in the show change their attitude, I'm not covering it on this channel. It's as simple as that. And I'd rather have 7 people watch rather than when we talk about Doctor Who, we'll have about 20, 30, 40 people watching. I don't care. I don't care. It's not about that for me. It's never been about that for me. Right? At the end of the day, I will cover what I want to cover, but I'm not going to cover this on principle. And if fans need to finally start speaking up now. This is not the time to be sitting down and saying, well, he had this right, that right, and all this bollocks. No. As soon as he starts doing it once, he'll do it again and again and again. And the cheek of him, these are people that bought merchandise connected to his era, right? We all got behind him, right? Because he did write something amazing and he was a great showrunner. But I don't know what's happened since he's come back from America, but all I'll say is he's got a chip on his shoulder and I'm not going to let that happen while I'm around. Right, I'm sick and tired of these people coming into our show and dictating and telling us what we can and can't do. Right, had enough of it. Anyway, Christian, you want to add something on that, or would you like to do your channel shout outs? I know you don't want to.
I better do the channel shout outs because I just went back. No worries. YouTube.com, The Legend of the Traveling TARDIS. Facebook.com, The Traveling TARDIS. This past Father's Day, I know you guys don't celebrate it over there, but it would have been not this past Sunday, but the following Sunday. We were excited. We went and hit 69,000 followers on Facebook. And I was going to tell people, you know what, we were planning and hoping that we would hit 70,000 by the end of this year, but it's not going to happen because it happened this past Sunday. We hit another 1,000 to go 70,000. So thank you all for spreading the word. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being a part of the legend. Tonight, we're going to be interviewing John Peel, author John Peel, and we have a plethora of authors who are going to be on the panel, and you get to join us tonight at 11 o'clock, I believe, your time, 6 p.m. our time over in the Eastern Standard, 3 p.m. Pacific. Please join us tonight. Talented author, and I'm going to have a special guest host in my place, so I'll be on the panel while I have Mark Muncie of Erie, Florida, hosting the show. Above all that, I understand your grief. I also know that he's been deflecting some fans who are on the opposite side of things, and he's been, he's gone after. I've just never been one to go after fans. I think about my show. If somebody came up and said,
I don't think it's a good look.
It's not a good look. But I've just never, if somebody comes up on my show and says, hey, your show sucks, I don't like it, blah, 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 I'm like, well, thanks for even trying, but I'll see you next time. I wouldn't go on a tirade and antagonize, because I never know when that person might turn around and you go, no, I'll give him a second chance. Maybe he had a bad day or something to that nature. But yeah,
See, that's the thing. Before he blocked them, right? He blocked them almost straight away. And Jack even says when he did his video, his stream with John the White and Gobby Guy, he even said it. He had intentions of going back to RTD and maybe apologizing because he thought he might have went a bit, over the top. But as I said, it still doesn't matter. Yeah, okay, Jack has admitted that maybe he was a bit whatever. But at the end of the day, RTD is the showrunner, Doctor Who, right? He gets criticism all the time now, unless someone's being absolutely hateful towards him, like i.e. bringing up his sexuality or belittling him in any way. Then yeah, telling fans to fuck off. I agree. I back you up 100%, right? But just because someone is having a go at you because you're at a writer's strike and they've noticed lately that you've been talking a lot of politics rather than talking about Doctor Who, what they're excited about, still doesn't give you the right to tell that person to F off. And that's where I stand on it. And I'm not going to back down on this one. I think as soon as fans start, kind of dismissing that behavior, then he's going to think he can get away with it even more. And that's what's happening. That's what's happening, though. After he blocked Jack, then that left Jack, and as I said, other people then that knew Jack were getting pulled into this situation. And that's why I'm bitter about it. If RTD hadn't reacted that way, none of the grief that came people's way would have happened. He has to be better than his American counterparts. His American counterparts have no problem telling their customers to fuck off and telling them that they're wrong, and that that even though those customers want those writers to respect the source material, they're saying, well, source material doesn't matter, like, you know what I mean? And I don't want RTD to think that he can get away with it here, because he's not going to get away with it, and he must be called out every time that he does cross the line, because it's the only way he's going to learn that, listen, all we're interested in, I'm not interested in your politics, don't give a flying fuck what your politics are, right? Yeah. All I'm interested in RTD doing is writing the best version of Doctor Who that he can. That's all I'm interested in.
That's very
right.
Fair.
And that's all that Jack and every other fan is interested in. We don't want to hear about all the bollocks politics. We don't care that writers are on strike, because in fairness, RTD, if you ask us as the consumers, right, we will tell you that the writers haven't earned their pennies. So the fact that they're out on strike, I actually find it a fucking cheek that they're out on strike when they've been producing absolute rubbish for the last few years. Same in Hollywood. The cheek of those bastards out on strike, right? All they've done is hammer us across the head with their messages for the last few years. And now they're out begging for more money. I tell you what, once you start writing great stuff, right, and you give stuff that customers can get behind, then you'll be entitled to your fucking pay rise. Until then, get back into your fucking jobs and do your jobs properly. Because I've no sympathy for writers, actors, or any of them now that are on strike. I've no sympathy for you whatsoever. Even you actors and actresses, you are complicit as well, because you decided to read the lines off those shite scripts as well and take the money. You sold out the whole lot of yous. And that's the bottom line. I've no time for these muppets anymore. Write something decent, and then we'll talk about giving you a pay rise. The cheekiest.
I'm not going to blame anybody who wants to get their cheddar, but yeah, you are correct. I mean, if you're not putting out the content that people want, you're going to become somebody like me who's just being disavows everything, doesn't want to watch anything, and I'd rather watch my friends on their YouTube channels chat about the movies that they're bashing. Just like that. That's what I've come to. I'm more entertained by Critical Drinker or Gary or Clownfish or any of these.
That's what I mean. But you've made the point, and that wouldn't be the case, Christian, if the industry was actually, do you know what happened? YouTube would become an essential part of that whole industry as a whole, because writers, creators, directors, actors, actresses would be featuring on all of these YouTube channels. There would be no divide. There would be no pushback from fans or pushback from the creators. If they were doing their jobs properly and they were actually giving us quality entertainment, a lot of these big channels now would have all of these actors and actresses, directors and writers. And what was your thoughts, your thought processes when you were coming up with this and all of this? But it doesn't happen, and it never will, because they do mediocre. And these channels like Gary's will always exist as long as they continue to make shy content. And trust me, Gary, I know Gary, right? Gary doesn't want, like myself and a lot of us, we don't want to be sitting down complaining all the time, right? We actually don't. Believe it or not, we don't. We want to be able to come on here and say, yeah, the Flash movie was great. The hype was real. You know, go and see. Yeah, Ezra is fucking, you know, he's controversial, but this is his best. You know what I mean? Like, giving it all welly. But
the thing is there are people out there like Gary, and I'm just like, well, they're making, you know, they're making bank. They're getting their people. What is he up to now? 750,000. I'm just like, they try to fight him, and I'm just like, well, instead of fighting Gary, why don't you find out what Gary's fighting for? Maybe you need to turn the camera.
And not only that, if all of these creators were actually smart, you know, Zack Snyder did it, but then Zack Snyder did the dirty then and called the Fandom Menace out, which I thought was a bad move. But the fact that he went on one of their streams in the first place was an eye-opener. It meant that it could happen, but as soon as Zack Snyder got a bit of flack off the people that hated the Fandom Menace, he came out then and disavowed the whole lot, and that was wrong. Again, you know, if you give the fans what they want, and I think Jordan, when the Justice League thing, the Zack Snyder cut, everybody was wanting that, and then it finally happened, and we got to see that, and it was a success. These channels are very more than willing to bring Zack Snyder on or anybody connected to the movie, but as soon as they did, then they burnt their bridges with them because Zack Snyder, you know, slagged them off. So the whole Hollywood's whole attitude is arrogant. They you need to understand your customers, right? Forget about fans. They're your customers. Your customers are not happy, man, and they haven't been happy for over a decade now.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that's just being kind.
And Gary Neurotic put it so specific. I mean, so specific when he was telling what's going on with the fandom. And it's like going to your favorite computer store. You buy a computer, you take it home, you open it up, you buy an iPad, you open up the package, it's a rock with the words iPad scrolled on it. Yeah. You take it back to the store and you go, this is not an iPad. And he goes, yeah, it does. It says iPad on it. And it's like, no, this is not an iPad. And the guy takes the rock and hits you over the head with it. And that's what it feels like to be a fan in this world. And I said, people who are fans want to feel a part of something. You may not appreciate it. You may not even be candid about that, but make them feel like they're a part of something. And you'll be surprised how people will come around and support you. And even if it's not a candid thing, even if you don't believe in the fandom at being right about things, they just want to feel they're a part of it. And now we've come to the point where we're just at each other's throats because we all have a different interpretation of what we feel about a product. And
that's the thing. I agree with you. See, this is the thing. You're never going to be able to please all fans. You're not. It's just impossible to do it. But you are right. If these creatives showed the fans and engaged with the fans and were open to suggestions, we're not saying, you know, you should take everything on board. At the end of the day, you are there because you're supposedly good at your job. So you will see things that maybe the fans won't see and incorporate and it turn out to be amazing. But I do believe you should engage with your fans. You know, you should engage with your audience as much as possible, but especially those fans, because without those fans, you wouldn't have a product to flog. And I think this is what's being lost in Hollywood, is the fact that I think these creatives have forgotten that, yeah, okay, you want all of these things to reach a wider audience because there's more money in it. I get that. But you have a core audience, a core fandom of each of these franchises. And when you're telling that core audience that they're basically not needed anymore, they're bigots, they're white supremacists, they're sexist, they're all this other nonsense that you've come up with, well, they're not going to stick around for too long. Or if they do, they're going to do what I do and what other channels have done. We're going to fight our corner and say, no, This is the way it should be. This is not Doctor Who or Star Wars or whatever franchise, whatever little corner of the fandom you're fighting in, right? We the reason why we're fighting is because we feel we're not being listened to, and we've been left no choice. We have been left no choice, because if we don't speak up, who's going to speak up? Nobody will. And then that way, look at if fans out there hadn't spoke up as much as they have now, I guarantee you, some of the franchises that ended up being saved we'd be in a lot worse situation than we are, right?
I'm looking.
Fans have the power.
I got a few minutes left.
I'm gonna.
No. That's fine. But I want to address Peter Harrington's. The customer is always right, as they used to say. I'm going to go and turn. Well, yeah, that's where I was going with this, Peter. I don't think the customer is always right, but I think they have the right.
Yes.
And they, especially if they're going to contribute their hard-earned money, their hourly wage, or they've saved up something a lot so they can get a good product so that you can make the stuff that you can. I think they should have the right to have input. Ultimately, it's going to be the showrunner to make the final decision. But if you make people feel that they're a part of things, like we do on my show, here's the plug, become part of the legend, that people have a say in things, and if at least they get to be heard, you will see that your support is going to completely turn around and come back and help you decide. They may not have the final decision-making process, but they are part of what is going on. And I will never say anything to anybody unless, like you said, they go after me personally, which a couple have had. And, I just hit the block button. That's it. And that I don't, if somebody comes after me and says, your show sucks, I'm just like, okay.
Yeah, I had that a few times. Oh, you're a talentless hack. I've never actually said I had talent to begin with in the first place.
Exactly. I'm the first in line when I say,
I'm just an effing idiot Irishman that decided I had enough that was going on. What was going on with a show that I hold dear to me heart, and I had to speak up, right? But I don't have these airs and graces about me. I mean, I never claimed to be talented. All I am is a mouthpiece on YouTube. Just like the rest of them that think they're famous and stuff like that. All they are is mouthpieces behind the computer. I don't get all it's on me fans. You don't have fans, they're subscribers, man. Get over yourself. Like, I mean, some of these YouTube have egos, man. Egos as big as their heads. Like, man, all you do is sit in front of a screen like myself and rant.
Well, their egos are inflated by the numbers that they can boast, and that's the thing. And
yeah, but still, you shouldn't. No, you shouldn't.
You shouldn't be. You shouldn't throw shade at people because they're part of what you do, and it's not right. It shouldn't be something that should be made to people to feel bad about being a part of something. Why would anybody want to do that? And that's not something I don't want to do. Now, of course, Chibnall and everybody else, this is their job. This is the thing. If you don't like the heat, get out of the kitchen.
That's it. And with that, that's a nice way to wrap up tonight. But what we'll do is, as I said, next week we'll do TV shows like Little House on the Prairie. Do you remember that? And Heidi.
Oh my God, it's been so long, Michael. I for Michael Landon and all this. I remember, what was it? Highway to Heaven. Jeez.
Highway to Heaven.
I remember that more than that, and I love that buddy thing that those two. I can't.
Quantum Leap. We've got some sliders. We've got some great shows to talk about next week, and then we'll talk about some of the newer shows and stuff like this, and what the problem is with newer shows. And in fairness, though, TV. As a whole, I will have to say I don't think it's in a worse state than actually the movie industry is, because I think they're still making some good TV shows out there. There's still some gems on some of these streaming platforms. You just have to look for them, but they are still making some quality TV shows. It's just it is surrounded by an awful lot of rubbish. But we will be talking classic TV shows and TV shows of today as well, and there's some bangers out there as well, especially the Big Bang Theory, which I'd put in there, and Young Sheldon. So they're not all bad, as I said. But we'll wrap it up there. I'll be back tomorrow with Queen Charlotte. PD will be busy tomorrow, so he's let me know. He's given me plenty of notice. So it'll be myself and Queen Charlotte tomorrow. So come and join us.
Queen.
So the Queen, yes. Queen Charlotte tomorrow. So come and join us tomorrow, folks, and we will see you and bid you a good night. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and we shall talk very soon, folks. Good night.
Good night, everybody. We'll see you later at 11 o'clock tonight on our show. Have a good one. Please stay safe. Love as always. I'm sorry, I choked on it. And you guys have a great night. I will see you next week. Take care.
Bye-bye. See you later, Christian.
Who the hell makes your videos? I need that.